Do you want to sound like a native speaker? If that is the case, this video is for you. Hi, I'm John Park. In this video, I'll talk about collocations. Recently, I came across a YouTube video in which Ms. Judy Thompson, an ESL teacher, addressing 3 secrets that you need to know about spoken English. And one of the secrets is about collocations. As a matter of fact, I addressed collocations in a couple of my videos. The first one was the Ausdic.com website, which is an online English collocation dictionary. And the other video in which I talked about collocates was COCA, Corpus of Contemporary American English. Here are the portions in which I talked about the definition of collocation and how useful it is, as well as the collocates. So check them out. What is a collocation? According to the online Merriam-Webster dictionary, a collocation is defined as the act or result of placing or arranging together, specifically a noticeable arrangement or conjoining of linguistic elements such as words. I know that's a mouthful and long definition. So simply put, what is a collocation? It is words placed or arranged together, or placing or arranging words together. For example, think about the word homework. Which verb works well with homework? Make, keep, take, or do? I know your immediate response must have been do. Do homework. What are you doing? I'm doing my homework, or I'm working on my homework, right? What about the word promise? Which verbs do you think of as you think about the word promise? I'm sure you must have thought of make a promise, keep a promise, break a promise, fulfill a promise, or go back on one's promise, or go back on one's words. Those are the words that work well with this noun promise. In other words, there are only a certain number of words that can work well with a single word in English. To put it differently, not all words work well with a single word. So by studying collocations, you develop a greater sense of which word that you need to use for a given word. So collocations is a powerful tool that you can utilize in studying, in writing, and in speaking as well. Now let's turn to the video in which Judy Thompson talks about this third secret that we need to know about spoken English, which is collocations. She makes a strong case about the importance of collocations. If you really want to sound like a native speaker, collocations is something that you must study and you must familiarize yourselves with.
So collocations is another name for expressions, really, small groups of words that come together for no reason that create an image. So an expression like fall in love, creates an image of romance or something. But this small group of words is fixed, so there's no fall to love or fall between love or fall near love. That isn't English, and it doesn't mean anything at all. So these expressions are carved in, that's right, not soap, they're carved in stone. They're not carved in soap, they're not carved in sand. And thousands of these expressions is how native speakers really communicate with each other.
Ms. Thompson mentioned collocations is another word for expressions, such as phrases, phrasal verbs, idioms, slangs, and other small groups of words that come together to form a meaning. In the early part of this video, I showed you a small portion of my earlier video about collocations. There, I defined collocations as words that are arranged together. There are only a certain number of words that can go together with a single English word. Not all the words can go together with a single English word. If you use a word that doesn't go together with this single word, then it doesn't make sense. It might be correct grammatically, but that's not how native speakers would say. And the example Ms. Thompson used was fall in love. Fall in love is a fixed expression you can't change or modify. You can't say fall to love or fall between love. It's always fall in love. She also mentioned the expression carved in stone. Carved in stone is another expression that has been fixed. You can't change it or modify it. You can't say carved in soap or carved in water or carved in sand. If you use it, although it might be correct grammatically, but that's not how native speakers would say. And she also mentioned that thousands and thousands of these kinds of expressions are used by native speakers in order to communicate with one another. That is why it's important for you to learn these kinds of expressions, collocations. Okay, let's continue to listen to what she has to say.
Not grammar. So people study grammar for, well, they can study it their whole life. And they can not sound like native speakers because native speakers' expressions run English, not grammar. So
Ms. Thompson mentions that it's not grammar, but collocations that run English. But as non-native speakers of English, you have to study grammar to some extent. You have to understand how sentences are formed, how different parts of speech are ordered, as well as some basic grammar rule. And once you have a good command of basic English grammar, then you should be able to read a lot and listen a lot and study these kinds of collocations that are mentioned in this video. So I don't think she's completely disregarding grammar because there's a place for grammar. If you just keep focusing on grammar without really studying these expressions, you might never sound like native speaker. I don't think Ms. Thompson is telling you to forget about grammar, but she's highlighting the importance of studying expressions. And if you really want to sound like native speakers, then you need to study collocations and these expressions more. She now introduces a very interesting example. Let's check it out.
So here's an example. Honestly, if a student of mine wrote this paragraph, I would be ecstatic. So last night we ate chicken at home. I cooked chicken. After dinner, my husband washed the dishes. The grammar's perfect. There's nothing wrong there. But no native speaker would talk like that because we don't eat meals, we have them. And we don't cook food, we make it. And we don't wash dishes, we do them. Do collocates with dishes for no reason. And this is how native speakers speak.
The example she gives is very interesting. Last night, we ate dinner at home. I cooked chicken. After dinner, my husband washed the dishes. So, as I mentioned earlier, basic grammar rules apply as well. You have to know where to put the subject, the verb, and the object, as well as prepositional phrases. But then here she highlights the importance of expressions. Expressions native speakers would use. Instead of saying eating dinner, she would say having dinner. So last night, we had dinner at home. And then I cooked chicken, but then she would say, native speakers would say, I made chicken. And then instead of saying washing the dishes, native speakers would say, doing the dishes. So when native speakers communicate with one another, they would definitely use those collocations. So here, the collocations: do dishes, make food, and have dinner. These are collocations and expressions that are fixed for no reason. So we can't really change these fixed expressions, right? Simply, we have to pick them up. We have to learn, study them, and then use them. If you think too much about why it's fixed that way, why this word is used here, then you'll have a lot of headaches. So it's better for you to pick up the expressions as they are used by native speakers. But then as non-native speakers, we'll have to study both. That's why I think English is quite difficult. You have to learn, eat, cook, wash dishes. At the same time, you have to learn these collocations as well. Have breakfast, dinner, and lunch, and then make food as well as do the dishes. So let's continue to watch what she has to say.
I'm going to put a nail, the final nail in the grammar coffin right here. So there's 208 actually, 208 grammar rules. So the global English that the 1.5 billion people are speaking, they use 10 grammar rules. We use 208. And here's one that we use. Adjectives describe nouns. Everybody knows that. What's an adjective? Adjectives describe nouns. Actually, that's not really true. And here's a list of very good adjectives right here. Another tricky thing about English is we have so many words that mean pretty much the same thing. So there's a bunch of adjectives, they mean pretty much the same thing, but one and only one, collocates, goes together with Christmas. There's no such thing as gleeful Christmas. There's no such thing as glad Christmas. That is in English. And there's no Merry New Year, and there's no Merry Birthday, That is in English.
Then Ms. Thompson talks about how adjectives describe nouns. Ms. Thompson then lists several adjectives and one noun, and the noun is Christmas. So which adjective goes together with Christmas? There's only one adjective that collocates with Christmas, and that is Merry Christmas. You can't use gleeful Christmas, joyful Christmas, happy Christmas, because once again, this is a fixed expression. But then when you study grammar, actually when I studied grammar, I picked up the expression Merry Christmas, not gleeful Christmas. So Merry Christmas is an expression that is fixed for no reason. So you can't substitute Merry with any other adjectives. Even if you study grammar, you should be able to come across these kinds of expressions, and you have to study them. When she mentioned that native speakers use 208 grammar rules, whereas 1.5 billion people use only 10 grammar rules. And that is a part that I wasn't quite sure of. I didn't quite understand why she says 1.5 billion people use only 10 grammar rules. I think that non-native speakers do use a lot more than 10 grammar rules. I will take that as a hyperbole. I think the point that she was trying to make is that English is really complex and difficult to learn.
So there's about, I don't know, half a dozen things maybe that go together naturally with merry. So you can have merry men and eat, drink, and be merry, and merry go round, the merry widow. That's it. So merry's an adjective. Wall's a noun. There's no merry wall. Grammatically, it's correct. There's no merry floor.
She then provides several examples of collocations using merry. So you have merry man, eat, drink, and be merry, merry-go-round, the merry widow. You can't say merry wall or merry floor. So merry wall and merry floor are grammatically correct, but native speakers will not say them. So the fixed collocations are merry man, eat, drink, and be merry, merry-go-round, and the merry widow. I think knowing these collocations is important. So these are expressions. So you have to study them as expressions.
So the pink guys, 1.5 billion people can't understand us because we use so many expressions and they don't use any at all. So grammar is linear, English is abstract, it's an idiomatic language. Collocations is the secret to native speaking, not grammar at all.
Then she concludes by saying that native speakers use so many expressions, whereas 1.5 non-native speakers do not use any. And that is the challenge that non-native speakers are facing. She then adds, English is idiomatic and grammar is linear and collocations is the secret. I do believe that collocations is one of the secrets to native speaking, because too much emphasis on grammar can lead to awkwardly sounding, grammatically correct English. And so if you want to sound like a native speaker, study collocations. It'll definitely help you develop that fluency that you are looking for. So in this video, I talked about the importance of collocations. You have to study collocations in order to sound like a native speaker. As Ms. Thompson pointed out, what runs English is not grammar, but expressions. There's a place for grammar, and you have to study some basic rules of grammar and syntax and how sentences are structured. So when it comes to native speaking, collocations or expressions do matter. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful for your English journey. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that like and notification buttons. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down in the comments. Please stay safe and keep daring to speak.